A bit of FUTUNA. Simple, humble updates. Let's see. Got my little notes just to talk about. Got my coffee. I just try to make an announcement of this live before I start talking. Let's see. Okay. Okay, let's see if I can get this shared on Instagram and Facebook. I like to do these lives even if it's not meant for like, I know lives are meant for like engagement, for people to pop in. I know like, especially on TikTok, do a live and people come anew and people watch and they join. But I do these lives just to have something fresh, raw that I'm to talk about while I'm in the element, that I can use later on if I want to use in vlogs. I also want this to be a means to just all my consistent followers to see me in the element. See me in the element. But let's see, live now. Yeah, let's see. Try to get this up on Facebook so people know. Popping up on YouTube live to talk about FUTUNA so far. And ask questions if you like or want to say mauli. Malo le mauli. Okay. I think maybe like in another minute and a half I'll start. Wait till some more people come in and talk about FUTUNA and my journey thus far, especially the greater voyage that is Voyages So Far, the greater Pacific. Yeah, I hope everybody can hear me okay. It's kind of windy here in FUTUNA. The wind has been incredibly strong, and I've been trying to navigate the whole experience in FUTUNA as best I can, especially with my drone. So let's see, I get this live up. So, okay. Let me just get my little talking points ready, just so I can share everything best I can about my entire time here in FUTUNA. Looks like I got one person that's popping in here just so far, but this is more long term, so this live can be used later on. If anybody knows or heard of FUTUNA, FUTUNA is in the realm of Polynesia. It's in the South Pacific. I would say FUTUNA is like you have Fiji, and then you go northeast. It's like the next neighboring island outside beyond Fiji. It's FUTUNA. And then you keep going in the same direction, you'll find Uvea, Wallis. And FUTUNA is one of the two islands that comprises of Wallis and FUTUNA. And interestingly, they're part of the same territory, but they're very different. Very similar, but they're very different, which is something I'm definitely going to talk about in this live. FUTUNA is small, but I will say that being here in the past week, it's very deserving of its own recognition. And I really wanted to do this live, even if it's last minute, to show just how much I am about to put FUTUNA on the map, whether it's through storytelling or through media, because this place, this island is very different and very familiar to other places and very different than what I've experienced. And it's so deserving of a talking point, alive, and especially about what I've been capturing, what I'm capturing today, literally, and what I'm bound to capture as time progresses. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Like I said, the wind, matangi, the wind is very strong, but I'm gonna do the best I can to kind of run through everything. It is about 1 week and change since I arrived from Wallis, and I leave in 2 days. It's bittersweet. I would love to extend. I would like to do a lot of things, but with my budget, it's very limited. It's exactly why I'm trying to fund my mission through my media and fund through my nonprofit, which I'll share links through the live. But to get things started, it's about 6 minutes into the live. Looks like I got 2 people on here. This live is going to be published permanently, so everybody can come back and check in. But please drop in the live chat if you have any questions, feedback, insight, things you want to say. And here we go. So where am I right now? I'm in the island of Futuna. Mind you, there's 2 Futunas, one in Melanesia. I'm in the one that's in Polynesia that's part of Wallis and Futuna, or Uvea mo Futuna. How did I get here? The only way to get here is by plane from Wallis. But how I got here is part of my whole story with Wallis and Futuna. For years, I didn't know much about the islands. I only knew of the name through Google Maps. Oddly, Wallis and Futuna are separated. They're separate quite far. And if you look at a map, it says Wallis and Futuna on the island of Futuna, but the 2 islands are spread like far apart. You have to scroll all the way to Wallis, where you'll discover that it's part of the same territory. It's a French overseas territory, but they're all part of the same realm of, the territory. Wallis Island is more closely linked to the islands of Tonga, culturally, historically, where Futuna, interestingly, and this is kind of like what blows my brain, is closely linked historically, linguistically to Samoa. And it's something that I'm slowly learning more and more about. I did an interview the other day, which is spoken in the local language, which here they speak Whakafutuna. Futunian or Futunan, which is a Polynesian language that sounds closely linked to Samoa, whereas Whakauvea, the language in Wallis, Uvea, they speak a language that's closely linked to Tonga. I wanted Futuna to be part of this voyage in Uvea mo Futuna just because it's 2 islands. You can't really experience Uvea mo Futuna without coming to Futuna. Futuna is a bit more off the beaten path. It's a bit more challenging to get here with the weather, small airline, and it's a bit more off the beaten path, which means this place is so much more worth visiting once you finally come, which is the case for me. I did mention in a vlog early this year that I've been highly anticipating 3 major things, and the second thing was coming to Futuna, and it's lived up to its hype and then some, because every single day I've been embracing the joy of how traditional this place is, how strong the community is, and just how beautiful the culture is, familiar to other islands but also distinctly Futunian. So right now I'm in the village of Vele, which is close to the airport where everybody arrives from Wallis. There's no other way to get here other than going from Wallis or Uvea. I'm not sure of any special charter flights from Fiji or other places, but to get to Futuna, you have to come through Wallis or Uvea. My first impressions, impressions is going to be quite a mouthful, so I'll do my best to share what exactly I felt, because it's only been a week and change since I came, so everything's still fresh. When I first arrived in Futuna, the first thing I saw was just how beautiful this place is. You arrive from the north from Wallis, and you basically travel over the north shore above the island, and you kind of do a turn, and you get to see the whole island, which looks like a boomerang in my head. I'm not sure if that makes sense. So there's Futuna Island, and then there's Olofi, and upon arrival you have this beautiful view of both islands. That's the first thing that took my breath away. You land, you get off the plane, and you can feel how small Futuna is, but also how traditional it is. When you get off the plane and you drive through the villages, you see nothing but sand all on the road and people's homes. You see the traditional Fale Samoa, which is the traditional built structures that you see all across Samoa. Of course, in Samoa, and especially here, you have the modern cement meeting places, homes. But then you have the traditional, what they call falelau, which is the traditional thatch, traditional built everything, where the people meet, they drink kava. And to see that in almost every household or every two households is something that really brought me back to Samoa. It's something that made me feel like I was stepping back in time. And it's something that really captivated my heart because I was stepping into a place that is feeling much stronger in tradition, but is also living up to the hype of what people have told me that Futuna is very, very much stronger in tradition than what, from their words, in Uvea. Again, arriving felt much smaller. It felt more intimate, and it also felt like I was coming into a place that is not the same as Uvea. It's different. That means I'm starting fresh. I'm starting over. I'm opening up my mind into starting something new, while being familiar to, again, Samoa, to places like Tonga, to Tokelau. So yeah, the the territory comprises of the two islands. Like I said, they're very similar. They have a shared heritage, their language, their way of life, their dance, and how they go about their everyday lives is very similar, but they're very different. Here in Futuna, I think because, and this is just my thoughts, the island reminds me of Tutuila. Tutuila is the main island of American Samoa, where the island is very mountainous. It's very rugged. It's very wild. You have sheer drop mountains where villages are, and then there's ocean. That's what Futuna is. You have very rugged mountains that go straight up to the sky, and then you have slivers of land and pieces of land along the shoreline of where villages are, and then ocean. And I feel like because it means people live closer together, it means community stronger, it means people socialize in a way that it feels like tradition and culture is much stronger, and it's much more, there's like a glue that you're able to see. You see people playing volleyball, you see kids sitting alongside the road talking, you see playing sports, you see women in the Fale Samoa or the Fale Lao playing bingo, gathering, talking story. I have heard aloud the sound of beating, and that is tapa, which they call Fale Lao. You drive around, especially at night, you see the Fale Lao or the Fale Samoa lit up with a bunch of men sitting behind the tānoa drinking kava every day. Obviously, the language is spoken left and right. Of course, people speak French here. It's a French territory, but Whakafutuna is this distinct Polynesian language to Futuna that sounds closely linked to Samoa, where you hear the L's and S's, but it's like its own thing. It's the same thing about how I feel about Futuna, where I feel like I'm stepping back to a place I've been to for nearly 2 years, American Samoa and Samoa. But even with the connections to Samoa, the historical links to Samoa, this place feels like it's its own, like it's distinctly its own. It's Futuna. It's linked to this, but it's Futuna. It's its own thing. And that's why I feel like I'm stepping into a place that it's like a fresh new chapter. It's like a chapter, like this is chapter 5, but it's like chapter 5 2.0. What surprised me most about Futuna is, again, how deeply rooted in tradition they are, and especially how it has two kingdoms. So Uvemo Futuna has three kingdoms across the two islands, the two major islands. The kingdom of Uvea in Uvea, and then in Futuna is the kingdom of Singave and Alo. They're two neighboring kingdoms on the main island of Futuna. The fact that they have like a territorial governance that oversees a lot of the, I guess, the bureaucracy on a higher level, you still have two functioning kingdoms with, I believe, one king, active king in Singave, and then a bunch of chiefs that oversee what would be a king to be. I think they're trying to find. at the moment. But you have a system in place that has existed for a very long time, for many years, that still functions today. Upon arrival, and this is something that I have to acknowledge that doesn't get shared in my social media, that I had the opportunity through the cultural department, who I'm currently trying to work with in collaboration, who invited me to a cultural protocol in meeting either the king or the chiefs that can welcome me and kind of hear my intentions, why I'm here, to basically give me like a semi-formal, informal approval to, you can go around Singave, you can go around Alo, you can go around Futuna to do what you need to and want to do with our permission, with you have the okay. And that was done early last week after I arrived, and that's what I've been doing. The Samoan connections I keep noticing, again, I'll dive more into that. The words and sounds in Whakafutuna are very similar to Samoan I've experienced. So for example, malo le malo pesiofa is like thank you in Uvea, but malo le alofa is thank you in Futunin. Malo le is like, you hear that in Samoa, the L. There's also S's used in the Futunian language, and there are some places and villages here in Futuna that use the S, like in Samoa, like Satavaka is in Alofi. Also, Manuia Leafiafi, Manuia Leaso, Manuia Lepo. That's like good afternoon, good evening, good night that they use in Samoa, that they use often cases when they're talking about have a good day, have a good evening, have a good night. There's one place name called Vaitele on island that's like an unofficial place name, which is also a place in Apia, Samoa. So let's see, what else? So I have conducted interviews here in Futuna. I've conducted an interview with the woodcarver, a very small interview with someone who does the tapa. But I did one key interview with an archaeologist who basically explained the connections to Samoan here in the local language, which is something that I'm trying to, I'm in the works of translating, but I'm looking forward to doing an edit that shows my time in Samoa, but my time here. I will mention that just like most other islands, I've had the beautiful pleasure and opportunity to navigate Futuna with One Ocean, One People, but also as a voyager, as a curious voyager into all what makes Futuna Futuna. I've been invited on rides, I've been invited into people's homes, I've been invited to cultural spaces where people are doing things. And it's been a blessing to carry on this voyage in a way I've done in Tokelau and in Hawaii and Samoa, where I'm just naturally progressing my time in the Pacific through community. It's been my means to hosting, which is a blessing right now, through people I've connected with in Wallis, and it's been an honor. It's been a true honor to be able to continue doing this. The island that's adjacent to Futuna is an island called Alofi. And I have to acknowledge Alofi, being that it's just a small island, you would think that it has, just very minimal significance. But Alofi was an island I went to on my first day. And that's where I was able to go with the local archaeologist. His name is Ipasio. And during that time, he showed me a lot of historical archaeological sites, which indicated that Alofi is not just an island that's beautiful to visit. It actually has deep history, deep culture, and stories that Futuna has that goes beyond time. And it's something that I'm navigating, especially while I translate his interview from Whakafutuna to English. But I have to acknowledge that the time with him has allowed me to see how much more Futuna is rather than just a place to visit. So I mentioned that I've documented a lot of culture here. I've been able to document the wood carving culture. I've been able to document the tapa culture. Today, I'm going to meet an elder woman who does the weaving, the fine mats that are common to see here, just like in Samoa. I've been able to see that they have taro, wetland taro, that I've gotten accustomed to in Hawaii, that they do here. I've been shown around by one of the locals here of how they cultivate taro. Um, there is a Pacific Festival going on in December, which is something I'm working with the cultural department on how to capture the islands to prepare for that. But there is a festival in December which is gathering different islands of this part of the Pacific to come here, and there's some works that I'm doing to capture the heart of the island to promote that event. So, um, what has been challenging here in Futuna, it's the same as my challenges in Wallis, is not having access to my own transportation. It's Wallis and Futuna is not cheap. It's pretty pricey, and having to navigate how I allocate my costs, especially doing this work on my own, with a nonprofit that's still in the works of being funded. Transportation has been limited to rides and people taking their time with me. It has been a blessing. I have been honored to been loaned rides, been taken on rides. I had a rental car in Wallis last week, which allowed me to get around. The weather has been pretty rough lately. The wind has been very strong. It's been raining on and off throughout the past month. But especially here in Futuna, the wind has been incredibly strong. I haven't been able to fly my drone. There have been days where I haven't been able to take boat rides to Alofi. We haven't been able to um, enjoy certain days outside because, again, the rain and the wind has just been insane. But the biggest challenge I've had in Wallis and Futuna, and something that I have to just keep mentioning, is that because it's a French territory, the main languages are Faka Futuna, Faka Uvea, or French. Most people don't speak English. The people that do speak, you filter them out, most of them speak very little. There's very, very few that speak fluent, either through going to school in Fiji or going to school and learning the English language. So the challenge for me is not just navigating language through people, but it's navigating storytelling through people and having to use my phone, using Google Translate or using ChatGPT to convey things either on social media or in person. With that being said, there have been times where I've had interviews and the question that gets translated doesn't convey with the right understanding to answer it healthily. And that's the same with encounters with people where people might be shy to try to speak English, even though I'm trying to convey what I'm trying to say through a third party or a third medium, which is online translations. But overall, it's been good. There have been people who are willing to help. There are people who take the time, even with their broken English. I have baby level Faka Futuna, let alone Faka Uvea, to convey on survival mode through noises, through sounds, through little words that I know from other Polynesian islands. Um, but yeah, the challenges of that has been real. However, I have been able to capture the islands in a way that reflects my time in Tokelau, in Samoa, in Kiribati, in Palau, in Hawaii, as an integral part of the puzzle that is one ocean, one people. My time in Oceania. Um, the things that have surprised me about Futuna is being that this is my highest anticipation among other things in Uvemo Futuna. The fact that I have known nothing about Futuna throughout the years. There are not many YouTube videos. There's not much online other than what you see on the tourism website. There isn't much to search online. Go figure. The island, I think, comprises of about 2,000 people. It's very small. But the thing that surprises me, like I mentioned before. The thing that stands out is it's very unique. It's familiar, but it's its own thing. It functions traditionally on its own. The traditions and culture are rich. It's healthy. Like I said, people are very communal here. People do things together. People look after one another. People still drink kava in the Fale Samo or the Fale Lao. People play volleyball. People do things with and amongst each other. The church life is very strong here. Obviously, church Sundays are, it's Catholic. Um, People do umu on Sundays traditionally with local foods, taro, ufi, banana, breadfruit, fresh fish, the works. Um, I won't say that Futuna surprised me in a way that I didn't know would be. I think I had a anticipation that this was as traditional as people said. I feel like it aligns with everything I anticipated, but as I always tell people, it's one thing to read, watch, and hear. It's a totally different thing to be, to immerse, and to be fully present in a place to soak in with your eyes, with your ears, and immersed through community. I will say that this has become one of my greater experiences in the Pacific, to be able to fully see how Futuna is Futuna, how Futuna operates and functions as Futuna, from the heart, and that's through the people. Um, One thing I'll remember more than just scenery, Futuna is gorgeous. It's very beautiful. I think the one thing that stands out about Futuna is something I've said basically like 3 times, is that how strong traditions are here, how traditional Futuna it really is on the day to day. People go about their lives with everyday things. People have phones, people have cars, people have cement buildings, they go to stores to buy things. But it's still very traditional. With that being said, now that I think about it, it's interesting that Uvemo Futuna are 2 islands, they're part of the same territory. But Futuna seems like it's weird to say it like this, but cut off from the stream of resources and goods. As my time here, I think there hasn't been a boat for quite some time. There's not much food or goods on the shelves of stores. Things are a bit scarce. I think gas can be scarce on certain weeks. The food quantity, I came, there was no coffee. There was coffee and food that had to be shipped by plane. Some of it was with me through the family I'm staying with. So it's quite interesting that Futuna is, part of the same territory, but it seems like it's like what flows into Uvea flows less into Futuna because of just how things come and go. I don't think there's a boat that comes straight to Futuna from Fiji. I think it goes to Uvea and then goes to Futuna. It's the same as Hawaii, even though it's a bigger island. Things that get processed and made or shipped to the mainland United States goes to Hawaii. It doesn't go from China to Hawaii. It has a whole process, which means things will cost more, things are more scarce. So I thought that was an interesting perspective. Um, at the time of recording, at the time of this live, I am 2 days shy of leaving. I arrived about 9 days ago, and I leave in 2 days. It's bittersweet. I wish I could stay longer. With knowing how I am, a small island doesn't mean there's nothing to do. Of course, I'm a tourist. I love seeing things. I love exploring. I like taking drives. I like flying my drone. But I'm here for deeper layered stuff. I'm here for stories. I'm here for storytelling. I'm here for culture. I'm here for Angay Whenua, traditions. I'm here to meet people, see how they live, which means 13 days is just, it's not enough. So leaving on Wednesday feels like I'm pulling a Band-Aid off of a wound too prematurely. I'm a bit bummed. I'm a bit sad. The reason why my time's limited is because there's not only Assumption Day in Wallis that I'm a part of, but my funding is limited to how much time I spend in places, which means I have to limit my time, and that's the case for Futuna. Um, I am hopeful that there's two partnerships within the territory that I'm hopeful for that will allow my means to navigate the islands. Means I'm fully funded to stay longer, to come back to Futuna, to stay in Uvea, but fingers crossed. I am going to share my links to my nonprofit in the chat, as well as my GoFundMe if anybody's willing to support the nonprofit and me as a Voyager. But as far as my time in Futuna, I am still working on capturing more of the island through drives around the island, capturing people, their way of life. I have done 2.5 interviews with people that I'm working on translations for, to do storytelling, to do short videos, short films, to show what Futuna is like through culture and through people. Um, there is just there's just there's heaps of photography. There's heaps of videos that I've captured around my time in Futuna in just 13 days. It's a bit overwhelming for me because I'm trying to organize, the media as best I can and see how I can respectfully share and capture what I've been able to see in different segments, whether it's how they cultivate the wetland taro, the laulafi, which is the tapa, my friend Ipasio and his archaeology, history, shares about his island Futuna, my time in Olofi, which is right next door to Vele, where I'm staying. My time here, my experience, um, and everything that revolves around my mission and nonprofit One Ocean, One People. This is a nonprofit and mission that is meant to bridge the islands through storytelling, and that means Futuna is part of a bigger picture. So I've been honored to be able to showcase what Futuna is like from the heart that blends into the bigger picture next to Tokelau, next to Samoa. And I think with the abilities and the challenges that I have with navigating the language and on limited funds, I think I've done a pretty good job. And I am looking forward to how I can showcase that while I'm here as well as beyond. So in the live chat, I shared my Zephy.com link, which is the link to donate to the nonprofit if anybody wants to support One Ocean, One People. It is my nonprofit organization meant to carry out the storytelling I do here in Futuna, as well as the other islands. If anybody wants to support me and everything that I do as a Voyager, I still have my GoFundMe up. I will share that in the live chat too. Anybody wants to donate to me, what I do, everything helps. As far as, let me see what else I got here. I do want to leave open a Q&A. If anybody has questions, anybody is interested in seeing more about what I'm doing, more about Futuna, more about this process, please drop any questions in the live chat. But yeah, 13 days in Futuna, going on almost 3 months, no, 2 months in Wallis and Futuna. I leave on Wednesday from Futuna, and then the 29th is when I leave for Fiji. And it's bittersweet because I'm not exactly ready to leave. I'm starting to feel very adjusted and adapted here, even though I don't speak French. I don't speak Faka Futuna, Faka Uvea. But I feel like the warm welcome that I'm familiar with in the islands, it's the same feeling I'm having here, where just when I'm starting to adjust, just when I'm starting to adapt and like looking at the horizon, like, okay, I have to go. I don't like that feeling because, again, how I voyage, how I immerse, every place somehow becomes home. It's been like that here in Futuna for the past 13 days, which is crazy because I just got here. But again, I think this, because it's so small and because I've been able to capture the islands in a way that's unique with the mission too, that Futuna is just, it feels like home now. Uvemo Futuna in general feels like home. There are things that I know I'm going to miss, whether it's the percussion and the rhythm of the music, the way people live their lives, how I've been able to connect with people. It's something I'm going to miss so much. Um, I am not ready. It's obviously about 2.5, 3 more weeks before I figure out what's next, which I still don't really know. I'm still working on Tokelau. If that doesn't work, then there's Rotuma. But I'm not ready to go. I'm really not ready to go. It's something that I'm having a hard time dealing with. I wake up most mornings and I'm like, do I have to go? Do I extend my visa? And the best part about voyaging, other than having, navigating financial challenges around the islands, is that I can do basically what I want. I can stay longer. I can get up and go. That's the beauty of what I do. Of course, the challenges are, finances. Again, I left my nonprofit link in the chat as well as my GoFundMe, those who want to support, help keep this going. I make some revenue off of YouTube. I make some revenue off of Facebook. I do work side gigs from time to time if people entrust me as a photographer and as videographer, which helps. But most of the work that I do is donation based. Just about all of my work is supported by donations. So anybody who wants to help support, the links are in the live chat. Everything helps. So Tyler asked, so are you doing all island nations around the globe? Well, to speak broadly about the globe, I will say that I'm always intrigued by island nations. Growing up in New York, but being someone from islands, Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, being a Caribbean islander, I feel like I'm always gravitating to ocean, gravitating to islands. I do love my winter spots where we're talking about going to like Norway or going to Serbia, or going to inland places or cosmopolitan spots in Europe. But I'm always drawn to the ocean. So I think I would say yes, I would love to visit all island nations. You're talking about Sao Tome and Principe to the Maldives, Micronesia. So to answer your question, it's yes. More specifically, because my life is around One Ocean, One People. It's the name of my mission, but it's also the name of my chapter in Oceania. I'm basically aiming to visit at least the major island groups and the major islands, territories, independent nations, or autonomous regions. We're talking about Bougainville, Papua New Guinea, we're talking about Tokelau, we're talking about Chuuk, Micronesia, Rapa Nui, Marquesas in Polynésie Française. It's the same with my time in Ouvert and Futuna. This is a territory, it's not an independent nation. I'm not traveling countries to tick off how many countries I visit. I am traveling countries, territories, and places to better understand how it fits within a greater picture. Futuna is just as much Polynesian as Tokelau and Tonga and Tahiti. It's just my passion and also my homework to see how they connect, but see how they're very different. So to answer your question, Tyler, yes, about the globe, but more specifically about the Pacific. Am I trying to visit most or all the islands? It almost sounds impossible to do, but I have a track record of doing that so far. So yes, I do intend, God willing, I'm able to financially with good health, which has been great, although my coffee intake has been a bit much. Yes. Really cool and great what you're doing. I subscribed when I saw your video in Palau. Yes, we're going back 2022 during COVID. I had the opportunity to visit Palau as part of my One Ocean, One People. It was the beginning of when One Ocean, One People took off, starting with interviews and took off to the point where it's at now. Palau remains, a place in my heart. It's actually on my list of places along the way. If and when I go to Fiji and I pivot to Rotuma, to Tuvalu, to Kiribati, to the Marshall Islands, I'll be going back to Micronesia and eventually back to Palau. It's been something I've wanted ever since I left, and it's something that I've committed to, and it's something that so many people in Palau ask me, and that is a commitment. That's a commitment amongst the entire list of islands. The one thing I mentioned in another live is that I am traveling around the islands, but I'm not doing so that's rushing. But I'm also trying not to do so where I spend too much time, where I can give another island a chance. For example, I love Uvemo Fortuna, but there's a time where I have to give Rotuma its time. I have to give Tokelau its time that I want to give. I want to give Tuvalu a second chance. I want to give Kiribati a second chance. Um, that's just something I have to keep in mind because as much as I want to live forever, I have a time limit too. Um, so yeah, so to remind everybody, One Ocean One People, the nonprofit is the same name as my journey in Oceania. I don't like to use the words Polynesia, Melanesia, Micronesia, but for the sake of understanding of how this is broken down, I am in the first phase of 3 in Oceania. Right now, I'm in phase 1, Polynesia, which comprises everything from Tonga to Futuna to Tahiti to Tokelau. It's not something I'm doing all in one go. I would leave to do phase 2 in Micronesia and then to Melanesia. I'll pop back into Polynesia to do Tahiti, to Niue, maybe New Zealand again, maybe come back to Futuna. It's very fluid, but there's 3 phases to give myself the opportunity to focus on a region. And then within that region, I can focus on Uveamo Futuna. Within that, I can focus on Futuna, which is what I've been doing. There's a time for Tokelau, there's a time for Samoa. But in the end, it's all connected. What I do with Tapa in Futuna is what they do with Tapa in Hawaii, they do with Tapa in Fiji, same with the canoe across the islands. Um, so yeah, final Q&A about my time in Futuna, my time in Uveamo Futuna, my time in Polynesia, Oceania, and beyond. Questions for me. Um, I'm going to leave it to you guys who's on here now to share and ask anything you like. I think I'm going to start with my final words. Le Mauli! That's what I love about being here is everybody waves and greets you. When you drive, everybody acknowledges each other with either a hand or wave out the window. Stop, say kataki or le mauli, malo le mauli is morning, malo le kataki is good afternoon or bonjour. People are very friendly, people are very kind, they're very communal. People have come up to me, people shouted my name in passing cars. Perez, Voyager. So it's some of those that I'll acknowledge, and I said this in my first live, that I wish I had meta glasses. I wish I could show you every moment. And sometimes there are moments that are like, I wish I could capture this forever. But the one thing I take a step back from that and I think to myself, one, I am a better Voyager than a creator. There are things that I will not be able to hit record on because I am not the person to do that. I am one to live the moment and be able to express it through storytelling later. But also at the same time, I respect and I always respected how I started in the first place. It was never about YouTube. It was never about how beautiful my Instagram carousel looks. It was never about keeping up with vlogs. It was about learning. It was about immersing, and it was about living. So with that being said, there are moments that I don't capture, whether I have the control or whether I wish I had meta glasses for a reason. And that's because in the end, I am just as much human as everybody else. And some of the best experiences are left with the camera left off. And I will say that there have been so many experiences like that. How I navigate those moments in a live through photography, I feel I do very well in captivating and capturing and sharing that through storytelling and through how I share in my social media, and that's good enough for me. So yeah. So to wrap up this live, I did this live for the sake of popping up fresh before I take a cruise and finalize my photography, my interviewing, my cultural spaces through Futuna. I want to take this time to thank everybody for popping in, for those who join this live. This is going to be published permanently, and it's the whole point of why I did this horizontally, for people to come back to enjoy exactly how I see Fortuna. The one thing I did with my live in Uvea is that there were people who did go back to my live and watch, and they sent me a message appreciating how I viewed and shared my perspective of the islands, and that's the purpose that this serves. There's also a chance that I'll use this as a means to embed into storytelling down the line. But all in all, this is just a raw means to share what exactly I've been up to. And the ocean is right there. There's Olofi in the background. I'm in the elements here at my place. And again, thank you all for supporting everything that I do. Thank you all for continuing to be here along the journey, whether you're on the live or across social media. Those who want to support, again, my nonprofit link and GoFundMe link is in the live chat. I'll leave it in the description after I publish this video. Again, last call for Q&A. I appreciate everybody's time with me. Again, as for what's next, I'll leave this once again. What's next is going back to Wallis in Uvea on Wednesday. I will be continuing to share my time in Futuna. I will be continuing to share my time in Uvea, as in the territory as a whole. I am going to figure out if I'm going to extend my stay or not. As far as what's next, I am still working hard on Tokelau. Tokelau has been a green light for me as far as the chiefs, the Tapulenga on the island I was on, which is Atahu. But there's some challenges with the immigration that they're not exactly responding to any of my emails, which I'm going to openly, honestly say has been kind of frustrating me. But there are a lot of people in Tokelau who have been pulling strings. They've been trying to work their means to give me an answer. I am literally one email away from getting the green light to go, which means Fiji, Samoa, Tokelau. If that hits a wall, I am looking to go back to Fiji, to continue on to Rotuma. And yeah, worst case scenario, I go back to Samoa, I get my answer, I spend time with some friends, and then I go back to Fiji, but we'll see. I will share, before I end this live, that I am working on 2 partnerships in Wallis and Futuna. These partnerships have been new key movement within my nonprofit that allows me to partner up with local entities such as the tourism. That gives me a blueprint on how I can actually work together as a nonprofit with people, places, and entities across the islands. There's a fingers crossed on this, as well as a local partnership here in Futuna to showcase the island. This is what I do. This is why I built the nonprofit. This is my intention. I don't do this for me. I don't do this for money. I do it because I want to give, but I also want to learn, but I also want to leave something behind because I have the power and tools to do so. It warms my heart. It warms my soul to be able to do it. I've been doing it, and I'm just trying to level it up to be able to do so. And so what these partnerships might represent is exactly that. So fingers crossed, everybody. I also was blessed with my very first grant approval, and this is just like a low-key thing I tried. It was a small grant that I was approved for that gives me ease of mind, but it also lifts my spirits. I'll be honest, navigating the whole financial thing as an individual and a nonprofit is challenging. I'm doing this out of passion, but it's 2026. Sometimes passion doesn't pay the bills. So I'm just grateful to see that there's been some promise on the greater scale of things with the partnerships and this one grant. I am also, again, grateful for a lot of support through people. There are people who come through with donations, which is the key support and backbone of all that I do. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that. There's things that are looking up with how I'm navigating as a nonprofit. And yeah. Since Futuna doesn't have a protective barrier reef like many other islands, if you did, how intense was swimming or snorkeling right out in the open Pacific Ocean? It's funny because I swam last night. They call it the Ava, which is like the entryway and the boat's entryway to go to nearby Alofi. I'm not going to lie, it looked pretty terrifying looking at the two buoys that indicate do not go out as a person just by boat, where they said that the undertow of the current can literally drag you out. And I basically joked, I was like, well, if I want to save on a flight to Fiji, I could just do that. But it is interesting that you look out in the ocean when you drive, and it's just rough ocean. Like everywhere you drive, it's just open ocean, whereas in Wallis, it's much more flat, and it's surrounded by lagoon, which is surrounded by Motu, outer islands, and then surrounded by ocean. So if you had the opportunity to go to Motu, you can see the equivalent to this, except it's like layers to see. Main island, lagoon, calm, Motu, outer islands, and then Moana, the open ocean. Swimming is interesting here. It's no surprise. It's not everywhere you can go. Some places are rocks. Some places are just dips where you have to be very careful. But it is interesting nonetheless. There are also places where you can swim in streams, but I think it's hit or miss. So, can never have enough coffee. Nope. And that's what I'm about to finish right now. So yeah, guys, I want to thank all of you. I've noticed it's fluctuated between 1, 2 to 5 or 6 people in the live. I want to thank you all for joining. Last time I'll mention anybody willing to support me and my works as a nonprofit. I will leave my nonprofit link to support One Ocean One People as a nonprofit. My GoFundMe to support me personally, once again. And again, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, and I'm on Facebook if you like to see some of my my day-to-day media of my time here in Futuna and Uvema Futuna. So this concludes my live. I want to thank everybody, Ray, especially you, for being so supportive, especially helping me set up this live. This isn't the last. I have so much media to come, whether it's vlogs, whether it's storytelling, and short films, documentaries. I almost have so much to share. I don't even know where to start, but I'm just doing my best starting from photography and then going from there. I have 7 interviews across Uvema Futuna that I'm working on translations at the moment. I am blessed with a translator who is offering her support at her own leisure and time because she recognizes the deeper picture and the deeper thing that is involved. I have so much photography. I did a photo shoot with someone in their old traditionals before Christianity. I mean, it's just so much, but I am grateful to have more than to have less. As far as my time in Futuna, there's still more touristy related things to do. There's still more capturing of culture, and yeah, it's been great. So, but yeah, guys, thank you all for joining. Thank you all for being with me on this live. Thank you for everybody after this is published to check out this video to see what my time in Futuna is like. Again, Futuna is very beautiful. It's very traditional. It's a very small dot on a map, but it's so rich, it's so powerful with way of life that it is an honor to be able to use my platform, to use my media to showcase how it fits in the greater Pacific, in the world, and as part of One Ocean, One People. So with that being said, guys, it is going to be time to voyage Futuna on my last full day. Wish me luck on what I capture, wish me luck with who I meet, and wish me luck with all I do with the allotted short period of time, as well as my time onward. Not further ado, with that being said, malo le alofa, everybody, and I look forward to the next one, and yeah, appreciate you guys. Until the next live.